Hello YouTube, and welcome to another edition of Rob's Arcade. As per usual, I'm your host Rob, and I have 3 reasons all my Player 2s are going to love this episode.
For over 50 years, the X-Men have been one of Marvel Comics' most popular and recognizable franchises. In addition to the amazing comic books, the X-Men have appeared in numerous animated shows, video games, toy lines, and even a series of feature films. The X-Men arguably reached the peak of their popularity in 1992 when X-Men the Animated Series began airing on Fox Kids. The show was extremely faithful to the comics it was based on and was a huge hit. In fact, this cartoon was so beloved that Disney Plus recently announced that they would be continuing where the 90s show left off in a brand new animated series entitled X-Men 97. This cartoon is in the early stages of production, so little has been revealed, but what we do know is that the show will feature character designs based on the original animated series, and the majority of the original voice cast will be returning to their roles. So, in honor of this upcoming animated series, on this episode I'm going to teach all of my Player 2s how to draw the most popular X-Men of all time, Wolverine. Oh, and we're not done there, Player 2s. After we draw Wolverine, we're going to take a trip down to the Classic Game Showcase and check out the amazing arcade game, X-Men Children of the Atom. So let's check our supplies and get started with our art class. Okay, Player 2s, moment you've all been waiting for. Let's start drawing Wolverine. First thing we're going to do, guidelines. We're going to press very lightly with our pencils, and we're going to draw a simple circle. Make sure we're leaving a lot of space on the sides and the bottom for the rest of the image. Then, we're going to draw a guideline, again very lightly, right down the middle of the circle to help us keep both sides symmetrical. Be even on both sides. After that, we're going to draw a line right about here. Then 2 lines going from here to here. And then a diagonal line connecting these lines. These lines should all be even, but if it helps to draw a guideline across here to end these 2 lines and then draw your diagonal lines there, you can do that as well. So basically what we're trying to do is we're trying to make a shape that looks like this. This is the basic shape from his head. Starting right about here, we're going to draw a slightly diagonal guideline that goes down to here, and a slightly diagonal guideline that goes down to here. So that you can see, this is the base of his head, this is his neck. So, a couple little lines right here for detail, and then a slight curve here, and a slight curve here. So again, Player 2s, we should all have an image that looks very similar to this. If you don't, that's okay. Pause it, rewind it, go back, do whatever you need to do to get to this point. If it's not perfect, it's a learning process, that's okay. So we have our shape right here. We can tell that this is the head, this is the neck, these are the traps, which are the muscles that are right behind your neck. Next thing we're going to do is we're going to draw a guideline, slightly curved, right across here. This would be where we place his eyes at a later step. slightly above that, we're going to draw another guideline right about here. This will show where his mask will go. We're going to draw a small guideline right here for his nose. Small one right here for where his mouth will be. Very, very lightly, because we're going to go like that like this time. So now, as you can see, the image is starting to piece itself together. The next thing that we're going to do, starting at the top of the guideline that we did, the mask, we're going to do a curve and bring it straight down. Same thing for right here, a curve, and we're going to bring it straight down. Again, very lightly, these are guidelines. We're going to have to modify these lines at a later step. So we just want to place this so we just know exactly where the parts of the mask are going to go. We're going to draw a slightly diagonal line that goes to here, a slightly diagonal line that goes to here, and then we're going to draw another slightly diagonal line and one that goes straight down. Same thing over here, one over here, and then have it go straight down. So as of right now, what we're working on right now is drawing his mask. So the next thing we're going to do is we're going to draw just a slight little guideline here, and we're going to stretch it across to here, and we're going to do a slight little guideline at the same spot, because we're going to draw a diagonal line to here and a diagonal line to here. Now, I hope I didn't overcomplicate that with the explanation, but basically what we're doing is we're drawing part of his mask. So by placing this guideline here that goes across and these little points, we can try to make this as even as possible so we make this both the same size. If we make one side too large, one side too small, it may look as though his head is turned, it may look like the picture is off balance, and we don't really want that. So we're going to draw a line that goes straight down, one that goes straight down to here, and we are going to, starting right about here, where this part of the mask meets, we're going to draw a line that connects from there, starting right here, same thing, a line that connects there. Again, we're drawing very lightly with our pencils because, again, in a later step, we're going to start cleaning this image up. This is just the guidelines, and we're using these as kind of like a skeleton to build upon. So we're going to start adding more details now. We have the basic shape, we have where we need to place everything, so we're going to start adding eyes, nose, mouth, all the fun stuff that actually makes this image pop out. So what we're going to do is we're going to draw slightly harder with your pencils, but still not too hard because you don't want to be able to smear it, or you don't want to have to, you want to be able to erase it at some point. So we're going to draw a little curve here, another little curve here. So these will be for his brows, because the next thing we're going to do is we're going to draw kind of like a letter S with straight lines. So we're going to do one line here, one line here going up to there, and another line going down. We're going to do the same thing on the other side. One line here, one line going up to here, and one line going down. Again, we have our guideline where the eyes go, the next step. So we're going to draw a straight line across to here, and then a curve connecting to the bottom. Okay, player twos, even I make mistakes, so I'm going to erase this, and I actually made that a little bit too large. So we'll start on this side and then I'll go back to it. So we're going to go here, draw our line, then our curve at the bottom. We're going to do the same thing, our line, and the curve at the bottom. I drew my guideline a little bit too short, so I'm just going to draw a little bit above that. So I hope that makes sense to you, player twos. Basically, we're going to follow our guidelines here. We're going to do our little S shape for the eyebrows, and then we're going to do our straight line and our curve for the eyes. We're going to do a little detail line here, detail line here. Follow our mask shape here. We're going to add a little curve here, just a little one for the part of his nose, and then we're going to draw two little lines and bring them down to here, which would kind of change the shape right there to make the nose. So when we eventually erase all our pencil lines, you don't have to do this right now. We should have a shape that looks like that. We're going to do the nostrils, which will line up, and then a curve. Line up, and then a curve. We're going to start right here at where our nostrils go, and just curve this line a little bit there, curve this line a little bit here, so that way we're leaving more space. Again, these were just guidelines here, so what we're going to do is eventually we're going to erase this line, and we're going to have a slightly different finished shape right there. We're going to do his mouth, which is pretty much like, we have our guideline, like a letter M. So it's one line here, letter M, right along our guidelines. Okay, I'll slow it down a little bit there too, because I know I'm going like that. So we have our letter M, and we're going to draw kind of like a letter U with lines for his bottom lip. A little curve under there to signify where his chin will go, and then the dimple on his chin. Inside of that, we're going to draw kind of like a sideways letter alpha right there. Again, we're just adding details to his face, and a couple lines right there. So there we have our pencil step. We're all complete with this stuff. Now what we're going to do is we're going to take our black felt tip pens or black magic marker, and we're going to ink over only the lines that we need, only the necessary lines. So I'm going to start by just going over the shape of his mask. And along the way, this is just a little bit of cleanup too. So if you have some lines there that are a little off, this is when you finish it, because once you ink it, you can't erase it. So during the process of this, they call this finishing, so you're actually finishing your drawing. So while I'm doing my finishing, that's when I'm trying to take a look, find any errant lines that don't need to be there, little mistakes that I can clean up along the way, and then eventually we're going to have a nice finished Wolverine drawing going along this. And another thing too is that when we do our finishing step, along the way, we've built up this image by doing shapes and connecting the shapes. Once we get to the finishing step, these lines will form finished shapes. So since we did a couple lines here, a couple lines here, a shape here, a shape there, we're combining all those to specific shapes that fit the subject of our drawing. So his head, his neck, his traps, little details on the neck. Got this little curved brow right here, his nose, his nostrils, bottom of his nose, his eyes. See, along the way I kind of fix those up a little bit. Same thing here, his eyes. I'll tell you something else, player 2. Wolverine is quite possibly one of my favorite characters of all time. I grew up reading the X-Men comic books. I loved the animated series from the 90s, and I mean loved it. I watched that every day. I was a teenager, I was working at McDonald's at the time, and I begged to have my lunch break at 11 o'clock on the weekends, on Saturdays, because I would sneak in the back room where they would show the training videos and watch the latest episode. I love this show that much. And one final stop, there's his chin. And there you have it, Player 2s. We have just drawn Wolverine. And I want you to wait a few minutes, let your ink dry, take your eraser, and erase all of the pencil lines. I had a lot of fun with this, Player 2s, and I hope you did too. I can't wait for the next one. Great job. On this episode of the Classic Game Showcase, we're going to pop some quarters into one of my favorite games, X-Men Children of the Atom. X-Men Children of the Atom is a 2D superhero fighting game developed by Capcom and released in arcades in 1995. When this cabinet was released, the X-Men animated series was at the height of its popularity, and this game actually features voice actors from the cartoon reprising their roles. The game's plot is loosely based on the Fatal Attraction storyline, as the X-Men battle the forces of Magneto, who plan to use the space station known as Avalon to conquer humanity. Players choose one of 6 heroes or 4 villains from the early 90s lineup and battle in a one-on-one tournament. Selectable characters are Storm, Cyclops, Wolverine, Iceman, Colossus, Psylocke, Omega Red, a Sentinel, Silver Samurai, and Spiral. The Juggernaut and Magneto serve as the final 2 bosses in this game. Gameplay is very similar to another Capcom fighting game, Street Fighter II Turbo. Players compete against an opponent in a series of best 2 out of 3 one-on-one matches. To win these matches, a player has to do enough damage to their adversary to completely deplete their life bar. Players have an arsenal of punches and kicks at their disposal, as well as a bunch of character-specific special moves that can be executed by joystick and button combinations. These moves showcase each character's mutant powers, such as Cyclops' Optic Blast or Iceman's Ice Beam. In addition to these special moves, players also have an X power gauge that fills up throughout the match. Once the gauge reaches level 2, a devastating X ability or Hyper X move can be performed. These moves unleash heavy damage and are key to taking on tougher opponents. There are quite a few ways to play this game in modern times. Of course, the best way to play this title is in an arcade as originally intended, but if you happen to own a PlayStation 1 or Sega Saturn, this title was ported to both systems. The fine folks at Arcade 1UP have also managed to find a way to bring arcade-perfect X-Men action into your own home by including this title on their 3/4 scale Marvel Superheroes cabinet or Marvel Superheroes Countercade. These cabinets are as close as you can get to having the arcade experience at home, and I myself am a huge fan. X-Men Children of the Atom is an absolute must-play for fans of the X-Men or fighting games in general. The amazing graphics and gameplay along with all of the fan service crammed into this title make this game a true classic, and I highly recommend checking this game out if you get the opportunity. Until next time.
And that's a wrap on another edition of Rob's Arcade. Be sure to like, subscribe, and share this video to help this channel grow. Also be sure to follow Rob's Arcade at the social media links listed in the description below. Now as far as the next episode goes, we're going to go back to the past with a classic cartoon that takes place in the future. It's going to be awesome, Player 2s, and I can't wait. Until then, keep drawing, and I'll see you all next time at Rob's Arcade.